Greetings everyone, and welcome to another Sol at the Movies. I just got back from seeing Smallfoot by Warner Brothers Pictures. And here are my thoughts on it. So Smallfoot tells the story of Migo, a Yeti who lives in the Himalayas, who is happy living an awesome conformist lifestyle with all of his other Yetis because the stones, which are basically the Yeti commandments, tell the Yetis how to live and what to do, and it basically says that the top of the Himalayas is supported by mammoths, and below the mammoths is a void of nothingness. So basically, Migo is just happy living his conformist lifestyle, but then, when he's training to be the gong ringer, which raises the great snail in the sky, i.e. the sun, he accidentally misses the gong and runs into a Smallfoot, aka a human, and he tries to convince the rest of the Yetis that this Smallfoot is real, but he's branded a liar by the Stonekeeper and is banished from the mountain. So he must join forces with the Smallfoot Evidentiary Society to try and find out if Smallfoots are actually real. So, I mean, this plot's fine. I mean, there's nothing particularly wrong with it, it's just sort of the Lego movie. I mean, the whole concept of conformity and breaking out of it and finding out what the world really is. In terms of animation, it's just the Lego movie by way of Happy Feet, with the whole living in an Arctic society and trying to find out if human beings are real or not and who they are and what sort of impact they have. It really is just the Lego movie meets Happy Feet, but in terms of plot, you could do worse, really. It's just naive guy goes on an adventure kind of thing. It's fine. It's serviceable, I suppose. Speaking of serviceable, the characters, Migo is the protagonist, and he's basically just Emmett from the Lego movie, but a little bit more grounded, I would say. He doesn't have as much, like, happy energy as Emmett does, and that just makes him less interesting, to be honest. They don't really do a good job of establishing his character so much, but I mean, whatever. There's also the girl, Michi, who's the leader of the Smallfoot Evidentiary Society. She's also the Stonekeeper's daughter. And she's just kind of there. I mean, I like that she's, like, calm and collected and everything like that, and she isn't, like, overly romantic about Migo, but being the leading lady, she obviously has some romantic interest in Migo, and just, whatever. She's fine, though. She has a really good, song, but I'll get to that in a little bit. There's the other members of the Smallfoot Evidentiary Society. There's, like, the big fat purple one, and then there's the other girl, and then there's the really fucking annoying one, Fleem, or whatever his name's. I think it's Fleem, or Fleen, or something like that. He's really annoying. In My Little Pony, the movie, there was, like, that little pig creature played by Michael Pena who kept talking about pie. It's kind of like that, a level of annoying where it's just like, oh my god, shut up. Like, the movie thinks he's a lot funnier than he actually is, and that's really annoying, because they just keep, you know, he's like the random humor, kind of, or just the straight-faced, cynical type humor, but none of it works. I don't think a single thing he said is funny. But luckily, he's a minor enough character that it doesn't really get that irritating. It's just, even the characters in the movie don't like him very much, so whatever. He's annoying, but not enough to destroy the movie. And, of course, there's the Stonekeeper, who is, I mean, I would say he's the antagonist in that he has a different view from Migo, but I wouldn't call him a villain, exactly. You know, the antagonist just means that he is opposing the protagonist, doesn't mean he's evil or anything like that, but he just wants to embrace the status quo and make sure people don't ask questions and follow the stones and all that kind of stuff. I mean, he's got a good reason for doing it, but the theme of the movie is truth and, understanding that the past is the past, you know, all that kind of stuff, so he's automatically the bad guy, even though I would say he has some valid points, for sure. He's okay. I mean, I actually don't think there's anything wrong with his motivation, necessarily. It's just, well, I mean, to explain why it might be a bad idea would be a little bit too spoilery for me, but let's just say that I'm sort of two minds of him. On one half, I understand his motivation. On the other hand, he's technically the bad guy, so it's just like, well, I guess I have to be against him, that kind of thing. I guess, more of his pragmatic attitude is what makes me sort of sympathize with him, but he's technically the bad guy, so I'm not allowed to sympathize with him, whatever. And then you got the Smallfoot Percy, who is a nature show maker whose nature show has gone downhill because of all the viral videos coming out that draw away attention from his show. He's gone bankrupt, his show's gonna be cancelled, so he basically has to find something exciting to do so that one of his videos will go viral and catapult him back into the spotlight. So, I mean, hey, way to contemporize a story. I'm not saying it's bad. Really, I mean, that's a concern, is that you try super, super hard to make something you care about, and then all of a sudden if some viral video comes along and just, like, get tens of millions of views, rakes in all the ad revenue. It's something I could sympathize with, for sure. His approach to it, though, trying to find a viral video isn't particularly honest. He's kind of a bastard at first, but I would say ultimately Percy is likable. I mean, he does have a relatable motivation, I would say. It's not about being famous or anything like that, it's about not going bankrupt and losing his house and all his worldly possessions. I mean, you can't get much more relatable than that unless you're rich or something like that, but whatever. So yeah, character-wise, other than Fleem or whatever his name is, there isn't really any was particularly bad, but none of them leave any sort of impression whatsoever. They all feel very stock, but the good kind of stock. Sort of like beef soup stock. I mean, it's not interesting, but it'll flavor your soup just fine, I suppose. So what's good about this movie? Well, I was going to say that I thought that the designs were ripped off of Hotel Transylvania, because it looked really similar to it, but then I realized it was animated by Sony, so that just took away that whole thing. But honestly, the designs, they're appealing, I suppose. They don't have the same, like, zippy energy that Hotel Transylvania does, and that's a huge plus for me, because right now, Hotel Transylvania 2 and 3, they used it as an excuse to just be annoying, whereas in Smallfoot, they use the designs of Hotel Transylvania, the series, but then they make the animation grounded and tangible, and that makes it enjoyable. I mean, the snow effects are amazing, the fur effects are great. It looks really good. It doesn't look cheap or anything like that. I would say visually, it's very impressive. Auditorially, it is also very impressive. The songs in it, I didn't know it was going to be a musical, to be honest, but the songs in it are really good, even though the first song, the opening song, Perfection, is basically just everything is awesome, but not as good. But that's okay. It doesn't need to be as good. It's good in its own right. There's also Wonderful Life, which is basically just Colors of the Wind, but more like poppy and happy. Again, great song. The songs are all really good. I mean, the score is but the songs, musical-wise, are actually really good. So I'd recommend, even if you don't check this movie out, check out the soundtrack. You might actually like some of the songs. It's like My Little Pony the movie again, is that, even if you don't check out the movie, it's got some good songs, I'd say. That's kind of where it begins and ends for the good things, to be honest. I mean, the worst thing about this movie is the first 10 minutes. I have to ask, why is it so hard for people to understand how to pace your first act? Plot diarrhea does not even cover it. This is super plot diarrhea, and I know I've said that before, but this falls into that category of super plot diarrhea. The first 10 minutes is just this non-stop barrage of information trying to establish all this motivation and backstory and understanding. It does that thing that Moana does right at the start, where it just dumps all this exposition about the world, and instead of weaving exposition into the story, it just slams you in the face with a big exposition custard pie and just expects you to be like, okay, sure, whatever. I hate when movies do that, when they just slam exposition in your face. It's so annoying. But yeah, it's just like the inciting incident of the movie happens in the first 5 minutes. Like, just slow down. It's okay. The first act is like 10 minutes long, and then the second act is like an hour long, and then the third act's like 30 minutes long. It's bad, okay? There are reasons why the act structure is in place. You know, it's not particularly original, but it works. It makes the story tangible. It makes the pacing good. So yeah, after the first act, it's fine. The movie just slows down and lets things sort of ruminate so you can understand it. The pacing becomes good, I would say, or just appropriate. But the first 10 minutes is like, it's really bad. It's almost Sherlock Gnomes bad. Let's not go that far, though. So if you can stomach the first 10 minutes of just this non-stop barrage of information and visuals and exposition and backstories and character and shit, you might like it. But that really was like, oh my god, if the whole movie's like this, I'm gonna fucking hate it. It did calm down though, so that's something, at least. But really, I mean, this movie's greatest flaw is just that it's not interesting. It's just kind of, there are certain parts of it that are really good, but at the same time, everything in between is just kind of, it's really, it's one of those middling type movies where you just watch it and then it doesn't leave any impression on you whatsoever. I mean, to me, there's no greater crime for a movie than to be boring. But I don't know, it's got like little peaks of interest followed by long periods of boring and then just like, ooh, that was a good song, and boring after that. Obviously it depends on what your tastes are, but really there's nothing I can say beyond that. It's got little peaks of interest, but for the most part it's pretty boring. Is it bad though? No. Except for the first 10 minutes, I would say that none of the movie is flat out bad. Like, it never reaches that level of bad. It's really just in the middle, to be honest. It kind of reminds me of The Star, although it's better than The Star, for sure. But it's just kind of like, it's just like one of those like flatline type movies where nothing happens and you know exactly what's going to happen. Execution-wise, it's a bit wobbly, but it's just competent, mostly. It's kind of the greatest compliment I can give it, is that it's competent. So would I recommend this movie? Sort of. I mean, I'm trying to think of something tangible to say here, to be like, oh yeah, but, I mean, if you like musicals, maybe, although it's a lot more like a jukebox type musical than like a show tunes kind of musical, so depends on what you like. But, I mean, if you like nice snowy visuals and you like good music, sure, I guess, but don't expect the plot or the characters or anything else to engage you in any significant way. It really is just a movie. Although, it's better than a lot of the other shit that's come out this year, so I'll give it that at least. And that's all I have to say about that.